story's called A Guest Appearance.
Ready, team?
With the intensity of a fighter pilot on a world-saving mission, Chuck was banging away at the buttons on his Mario DS game when the doorbell rang. He'd usually wait for his mom to get it, but he knew his mother was sleeping late the Sunday afternoon after an especially hectic week at work. The doorbell rang again, and with a sigh and the push of a pause button, Chuck reluctantly dragged himself over to the door. Hi, can I come over now? It was Julia, the kid from down the block, who Chuck vaguely remembered inviting over last week to play. Chuck shrugged his shoulders and pointed with his head to the living room where he'd been sitting. Julia followed him and sat down next to him at the couch as Chuck promptly ignored her and went back to his DS game. After a minute or so, Julia cleared her throat. Aren't we going to play something? Yeah, in a few minutes. Chuck waved her off, annoyed at getting the distraction in his game playing. With a frown, Julia got up, started looking around the house at the books on the shelf, looking at all the tchotchkes, and then walked back to the couch. It's really hot. Can I have some water or something? Okay, Chuck snorted, flipping his game with obvious irritation and plodding off to the kitchen. The last thing he expected to find was all the activity he saw going in there. His mother was awake, dressed in her best clothes, busy putting snacks and plates together on special trays. I thought you were sleeping, Mom. What's going on? Chuck asked. I thought so too, his mother smiled, but it seems I'm having a guest. A guest? Chuck thought it must be someone very important from out of town if his mother was going to get up so early and start making all these beautiful snacks. Who's coming over? Mrs. Winkler called and said she wanted to come by this morning and show me pictures of her new grandson. Mrs. Winkler? You mean the lady who just lives up the road? Yes. If it's just a neighbor coming over, what's the big deal? Well, it is a big deal, Chuck's mother said. When someone comes to visit, whoever it is, that person is a guest in our home, and it's a great chance to do such an act of kindness by treating them nicely and making them feel at home. By the way, didn't I hear that doorbell ring? Chuck gulped. He'd forgotten all about Julia. Uh-oh. Chuck realized if his mom woke up early to prepare for her guest, he wasn't really being such a good guest himself. Mom, do you think I could take a few of those snacks and a couple of the drinks? I have an important guest waiting in the living room that I want to make sure she feels at home too. Mom gave him some snacks. Chuck went back to the living room, and they played happily ever after.